Well, here we are again, at the end of another Naruto November. Gotta say, I've had a lot of fun taking a look at this series, but all things come to an end, and they did this time with Clash of Ninja Revolution 3. Many claim that this is the best game in the series, but what do I think? Well, let's find out, and roll the intro.
Alright, let's get started already!
In terms of just the core features, gameplay has probably changed the least. In my time playing the game, it just felt like a better version of Clash of Ninja Revolution 2, which is a really good thing, but the only thing I can think of is that the game now gives you the option to turn off stage obstacles. Wish I knew that before starting the story mode, but I digress. However, there is one thing I heard that was changed, and that was that they balanced the roster compared to the previous games. Again though, if you're like me, you really only play these games for the story mode, and you probably won't notice it that much. However, if you're into the multiplayer side of the games, you'll definitely notice. Speaking of the multiplayer, this game has been the community favorite for online play for quite some time. I only know this from various videos on the subject. As I'll say again, I'm not a huge multiplayer fan. But with that, this is it for the gameplay segment of this video. Shocking for me too, honestly. Moving on to the presentation and how the style of the show is adapted. This game is once again a step up from the previous game in the series. They have finally moved on from the visual novel cutscenes, and here, every cutscene is CG. About freaking time! It actually makes the storytelling feel consistent this time around, as they aren't switching styles throughout. Honestly, that's the biggest improvement on the presentation this time around. The fact it took us this long to get to this point is kind of crazy, but I'm just glad we're here now. Let's talk about the music, and believe it or not, I actually have something to say in this segment. If you've watched my previous videos in this series, you'll know I haven't been too kind on the music in this series. And well, can you blame me? The previous games never had music that fit in the world of Naruto. But here, I can't believe I'm saying this, but they got some good tracks this time. Finally, after 4 games, the soundtrack of a Clash of Ninja game fits within the world of Naruto. To add to that, the music can add to the story and enhance certain cutscenes. I mean, it's not to the same level that Ultimate Ninja Storm was, but still, this series is finally making some progress. Now with that, we can move on to the story, and this is where a majority of my thoughts on the game will come into play. As always, we'll start by talking about the stories they are adapting. This game is adapting the Rescuing Gaara arc, which is the first main story of Naruto Shippuden. This adaptation here is actually pretty good, as most of the important story beats are hit. Naruto returns home from his 2 years of training, and Gaara is kidnapped by the Akatsuki organization. The Akatsuki plan on extracting the tailed beast that resides within Gaara, which in turn will kill Gaara. Again, the story setup is good, however, they do leave out 2 parts that are kind of critical. The first thing that they leave out is we don't get to see Naruto's team arriving at the Sand Village, where Gaara is kidnapped from. This wouldn't be a big deal, but we don't get to see the group meet Granny Chiyo. Chiyo is a very important character, as she explains who the Jinchuriki are, and their importance to the overall story of Naruto. Speaking of, the second thing that Tomi left out was the story explanation of the Jinchuriki. Now, in order to explain why this is important, I'm gonna have to explain a bit of the show's story, and why it's important here. In Naruto, there are these giant monsters known as tailed beasts that are sealed inside of people to prevent them from causing any harm or destruction. These people are called Jinchuriki, and they are extremely powerful. As it happens, Naruto and Gaara are also Jinchuriki, which is why they were both being chased by the Akatsuki. The Akatsuki want to capture all of the Jinchuriki, so at the beginning of Naruto Shippuden, that's why they capture Gaara, because not only do they want the tailed beast inside of him, but they know this will draw out Naruto as well. That's all that really needs to be said in order to understand the context of the story. But why was it important that I mention this? Well, because the game doesn't mention any of this. I can understand why they cut them out though. This is a fighting game, and those moments of story explanation didn't really have any fighting in them at all. But there's still important moments that were left out, and that does knock it down a few points for me. Moving on from the adaptation side of things, let's move on to the actual gameplay side of the story. Before I get to the balancing, because trust me, we'll get to it, I want to talk about the missions. Unfortunately, there aren't any unique beat-em-up levels like in the previous games, but there is one very unique level that's worth talking about. There's a mission where you're playing as Guy, and you are fighting a clone of yourself. The clone mimics every move you do, so you have to figure out an ideal way to damage the clone. It forces the player to come up with unique strategies in order to beat the enemy, and overall leads to a really fun mission. Other than that though, the rest of the missions are just simple fight missions. Nothing wrong with that though, as the fights are just as fun as before. But it's time to talk about the thing I've been dreading this entire marathon, and that's the difficulty of this story mode. Now, I'll be honest, barring the second fight in the story, which I lost a lot for some reason, I didn't have the hardest time with this story. That was until the final 3 fights. These final 3 fights are so freaking difficult. The difficulty takes such a huge step up in these final 3 fights that I'm going to go through these fights one at a time. First up, we got Chiyo versus Sasori. While there is a lot of story setup for this fight, I never felt like the game did it justice, so I'm not going to go into it. The first thing that makes this fight super annoying is the fact that your health is draining the whole fight. This makes the fight infuriating. However, that's not the big problem I have with this fight. That would actually be the puppets that you have to use to fight. I don't find them fun to play with at all. I just find them incredibly frustrating to use. They don't move with Chiyo. Instead, when you attack, you actually make the puppets move. So say you move Chiyo to the right, the puppets won't move at all. Rather, they'll just stay still. You have to attack or else they won't move at all. This makes your attack mobility extremely limited, and overall makes the battle, in my opinion, more frustrating than it needs to be. Then, we move on to the second to last battle, Neji and Tenten versus Deidara. Honestly, there's nothing that makes this battle distinctly hard. That is not true. Hey everyone, Sam from the editing room again. Just wanted to point out something. It's been a while since I recorded the footage, so while writing the script, I guess I forgot the reason this boss was actually difficult. And that reason is the time limit. While this fight with Deidara is not as difficult as the next one, it still takes a while to beat Deidara, and you have to be on your absolute best in order to beat him in the allotted time. Like seriously, I would get so close to beating him, only to lose because I ran out of time. In my opinion, this should have been a 2-minute fight. But hey, what are you gonna do? And then we get to the last battle. There's a reason I've been building to this fight since the first video of this marathon. Ninetales Naruto versus Deidara is one of the most difficult boss fights I have ever faced. You would think that the fight would play similarly to the other fights of Datara, but it does not. Datara does a ridiculous amount of damage compared to your previous encounters with him. Like, look at this! This is ridiculous! Also, don't even think you can block attacks. Datara's explosions will break your guard in no time at all, and of course, breaking your guard takes away some of your chakra. Once again, you would probably think that Naruto being in a super mode would make this fight easier. Well, call me reality because I'm about to dash your hopes. Datara has super armor, meaning he can't be staggered by 90% of your attacks. Also, you know how regaining your chakra can take a bit of time during a normal fight? Well, Datara must be on some chakra steroids or something, because I swear I've seen his chakra recover almost instantly. This allows Datara to keep throwing his projectile attacks almost non-stop. Finally, you have to win the fight by using an ultimate attack. This is the least of your concerns though, as you'll struggle to even get Datara's health to a killable state. By the way, you wanna know how many times I died to this guy? Yeah, me too. I lost count after 32 times. Datara puts the whole story mode in a new light for me, because aside from these final fights, this story mode is a lot of fun. But again, all I think about when playing the story is these final 3 fights. It's why even with all the improvements the game has made, I still find myself preferring Clash of Ninja 2. Crazy as it sounds. But even with that, Clash of Ninja Revolution 3 remains the best adaptation of a Naruto story in the series. Sadly though, that still stands today, as Clash of Ninja Revolution 3 would be the final entry to be released in the United States. But why? Why, when the series was on an upward trail, would they stop? Clash of Ninja Revolution 3 was released in February 2009, while the first game in the Ultimate Ninja Storm series released in November 2008. Now it's no secret to anyone that the Storm series became far more popular than the Clash of Ninja series ever did. It was flashier, better looking, and told a much more deeper story than Clash of Ninja ever did. So I think Tomy was just not interested in fighting a losing battle. After this, they would mostly focus on portable games. But even then, they wouldn't last much longer. Their final Naruto game would come out on the 3DS in 2011. And with that, Tomy gave up the Naruto game license, making Bandai Namco the only publisher with the rights to make Naruto games. It's funny, before I did this marathon, I thought I was going to enjoy these games more than the Ultimate Ninja games. But I find myself thinking more about Ultimate Ninja than Clash of Ninja. Over the course of 4 games, Ultimate Ninja changed drastically, while Clash of Ninja struggled to innovate. But even with that, I still like this series, and would love to see it come back. So come on Bandai, get the rights to these games and port them to the Switch. I'll buy them again, I swear. I have a problem. Now finally, let's end this video with a ranking of the Clash of Ninja series as a whole. Clash of Ninja Revolution 1 is in last place. Even if I could get a GameCube controller working, I would still consider this the worst in the series. Poor story mode, useless features, and overall just the weakest entry in the series. The one that started it all is next, with Clash of Ninja 1. While it's still solid, the lack of content holds this one back substantially. Clash of Ninja Revolution 2 is what Revolution 1 should have been. Better gameplay, better presentation, and a hilarious story mode make this one of the best in the series. Clash of Ninja Revolution 3 is a great game, and was overall a great end to the series' time in the West. Having the best story adaptation to date, and the most polished gameplay to date, means it's only held back by the lack of balance in the story mode. But finally, in first place, Clash of Ninja 2, my favorite game in the series. Actually adding a substantial story compared to the first game did so much for me. The story has the best balance out of any game in the series, making it feel fair, yet still challenging. I know many out there will disagree with me, but to me, Clash of Ninja 2 is where the series peaked. With that, we have finished Naruto November 2. Thank you all for sticking with these videos. I hope you enjoyed them, and I hope you'll enjoy Naruto November 3 when that comes out. But until then, Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all for the next video. Later, everyone.